Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Able Voices podcast. I'm Dr. Rhoda Bernard, founding managing director of the Berklee Institute for Accessible Arts Education and the assistant chair of the music education department at Berklee College of Music. And I am proud to present this podcast featuring disabled artists and arts educators. We are inviting artists with disabilities to be guest hosts for the Able Voices podcast. Today's guest host is Briana Raucci. Briana is a Connecticut-based artist specializing in film and digital photography, writing, and design. Briana also happens to have multiple disabilities. Over the years, Briana has self-described as a photographer, photojournalist, writer, graphic designer, UX and product designer, social media manager, artist, etc., but feels none of these titles fully embodies the creativity she is constantly trying to express in new ways. After in-depth creative exploration, doing both full-time and freelance work for over 13 years, Briana is now freelancing full-time, utilizing all of her creative abilities. Being a multi-passionate individual, this has allowed her to balance all of her creative endeavors and to add a few more.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Able Voices podcast. I'm your guest host, Briana Raucci. I'm a disabled artist, writer, and designer with cerebral palsy, epilepsy, endometriosis, ADHD, and a lot of other exciting medical conditions. I use my art to communicate what it's like to live with disabilities on my disability and art blog. Today, I'm here with UK rapper, entrepreneur, and disability advocate Akes. Akes uses his platform to touch on everything from disabilities to fatherhood, relationships, institutional racism, and personal struggles he's faced living with cerebral palsy. His lyrics are expansive across a range of genres, and he is constantly finding new ways to express himself. In his most recent single, My Disability Can't Stop This Ability, he walks us through his story, addressing his blessings, how he didn't choose music, but music chose him, and how he refuses to give up despite life's challenges. Through lyrics like With Tremendous Burdens Often Come Enormous Gifts, Akes inspires over 100,000 people on Instagram. Akes, it's an enormous gift to have you on with us today. I'd like to start by asking you to share your story as an artist. How did you get to where you are today?
What's going on, Brianna? You're right. So, how I got to where I am today, from a very young age, just using music just to express my thoughts and express myself. Um, and yeah, it just over the course of my life, I just got better with it and built myself as an artist and developed my artistry to be able to convey my thoughts into music that can touch other people. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Is there a specific moment that you can remember when you started music or a specific influence that kind of set you on this path?
Yeah, like when I was a teenager, in my early teens, obviously in the UK we have a genre called grime, which is basically the UK's core genre of music, which represents like British street culture and life in the UK, and that was the big thing. So it was kind of like in my early teens when I started out writing music and stuff. That was the moment when I was like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna give this a shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you started with your interest in grime. Did you have any influential artists or genres besides that significantly influenced your style or your lyrical approach?
Not at the time, no. Because all right, let me take you way back to the beginning. At the time, no, because obviously, like I said, that was my main influence, grime. But obviously, as I started to get older and have children, and I knew I had to develop myself as an artist and look into. I appreciate all different types of music and genres of music anyway. So, you know, there's a lot of rappers in the US that I listen to and stuff like that, which obviously help you grow as an artist rather than just a MC, as what we call MCs in the UK. To develop myself into an artist that can write songs, can convey messages in songs and stuff like that, and connect with the audience. That's a whole different ball game. So yeah, there's been a few influences along the way that have helped shape my career and my artistry to date. Yeah.
Living with CP, how has your disability shaped your creative process and your performance style? Are there any adaptations you've made in your journey?
You know what? L- Living with CP, especially like when you're performing on stage and it's like there's like 30 artists on stage. you get a sense of like anxiety because obviously you know that, whoa, if something was to go wrong or something, you're at a disadvantage. But I've always had to keep a brave face and always just try to keep my composure. And obviously, it's only in the recent years I've started to embrace my disability in music because obviously I used to me living with CP. It used to kind of play with me like I did. I used to feel inadequate, not good enough. Why am I born like this? Why am I not normal? Or well, I am normal. I just consider myself at the time not normal. So that was that was the main driving factor behind it. But again, I had to be confident. I had to, first of all, I had to accept it for what it is. I had to accept it for me to be able to embrace it. And obviously, now I can embrace it and I've turned my pain into power. I can influence and motivate and inspire other people and meet other people like yourself. Like, you know, I got left hemiplegia, you've got right hemiplegia. And since we connected online, it's been nothing but good vibes from the jump. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Representation matters in music. So, how do you perceive the current landscape of disability representation in the music industry, and what would you like to see change? You're obviously trying to inspire change as it is, but how do you feel about the current landscape?
So the current landscape of disability, I wouldn't say just in the music industry, but in the entertainment industry, there's not really from my experience and what I've seen to date, there's not really much representation. I know there's, things like mental health and men's mental health. There's a few artists in the UK and in the US that they certain times throughout the year they have these artists that, when they're running campaigns and stuff, but I feel like there's not a lot of representation, hence why I am using my platform to be one of the first to kind of shape the narrative and rewrite the narrative of how disability is seen in society and within the industry. You know what I'm trying to say? Because there's a whole load of disabled creatives who have no representation. There's no role models. Um there's no one to look up to like, oh well, so and so's done this, so because even for me growing up there wasn't any of that. You know what I mean? So it's like it definitely does need to change because there's no representation, and any representation of it is very severe. It's like people like myself and you who are disabled, who have bad days, who have dark days, but on the brighter days, we get up and we try our best and we're creative and we think outside the box and we do all these amazing things. I feel like sometimes it gets unseen or unheard, but
Definitely.
obviously we're battling with everyday life separately to our conditions and we're dealing with that. So like as I said to you, we're real life superheroes and there's many other real life superheroes out there who are doing amazing work, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And speaking of amazing work, you have your obviously your rapper name is Akes, but you have your brand Aches and Pains. So I
Yeah.
think you said you just made something happen with that. Can you talk more about that?
So basically, yeah, my rapper name's Akes, which is it stems from my condition. As you know yourself, with cerebral palsy, you experience a lot of aches and pains. Now, obviously, throughout my whole life, obviously I've had interventions throughout high school, kindergarten school for like physiotherapy and stuff like that. And obviously, as you get older, our conditions deteriorate. So it's important to regular exercise and stuff like that. So for the past few years, I've been doing that. And obviously, I fell in love with it. And obviously, the reason behind it was to kind of battle and deter my condition from deteriorating as slow as it needs to be, rather than as quick as it needs to be. And obviously, that was like the birth of Aches and Pains. And obviously, Aches and Pains, I've actually got a project out on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, all of that, called Aches and Pains. And that was like the birth of Aches and Pains. And what Aches and Pains is just like a collective of all the struggles of life that, you know, I've had to face and overcome. And I wear all the adversity as a badge of honor. and it's made me who I am today. You know what I mean? So, and obviously, separate to being disabled, disabled or not, everybody in life experiences at some time in their life aches and pains, whether it's just everyday life, the loss of a loved one, family, friend. So I feel like with the brand, it's a universal brand that, everyone can get something rewarding from it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, that
Hmm.
speaks to everyone, but especially when I saw your name, like in aches and pains and everything when we first connected, I was like, "Oh yeah, we have to talk because it's very relatable." And I love the positivity you spread through your art too.
Thank you.
As an entrepreneur, what obstacles have you faced, if any, with your disability, and how have you navigated?
So as an entrepreneur, I've faced sometimes opportunities are not easily accessible,
Mm,
but I think that because I've been conditioned from very early to just like you can't give up, don't take no for an answer. I've always had to figure out how to find a way. So, for example, before I was an entrepreneur, I've had various jobs in certain like in like certain areas, but I quickly realized that's not for me. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always tried to, you know, create something and make something out of nothing. That's just the story of my life. I've always done that. So one of my most recent ventures is obviously as I spoke to you about, setting up a community interest company, which is now set up, is Disability CIC, where we're going to be empowering and supporting disabled creatives and stuff. So I'm embarking on that journey now, trying to bring everything together and trying to basically just push everything um, in a way where I can basically empower and motivate people. You know what I mean? And try and offer something to support people because, I know what it's like to go through life feeling like you got no support. So if I can use my life story and what I'm doing in music, in business, in just in life, and even if my aim is to change one person's life, you know what I mean? Or impact one person's life for the better. And once I do that, then I'll be happy. You know what I mean?
yeah, I relate to that a lot. And I'm wondering, you said there's like obviously not a ton of opportunities sometimes, and you've always had an entrepreneurial kind of energy and wanting to work for yourself. Do you ever feel like, because this is something I experienced, but do you ever feel like people with disabilities are often kind of forced to be their own boss because of the lack of opportunities? And do you think you kind of came into it out of obligation rather than wanting to, or do you think
Nah,
it was
definitely, 100%.
yeah?
I've been to university twice. I got 2 degrees. I'm a qualified graphic designer. I'm a qualified teacher, and obviously coming out of university and applying for jobs. And they have a thing over here in the UK. I'm not sure if it's like that in the US, where they say if you're considered disabled, then when you're applying for jobs or you're sending out your CV or whatever, if you inform the employer that you're disabled, it's meant to automatically guarantee you for an interview. But I've never really had any success in that. So I just like, obviously going to university, they sell you the dream. You go to school, you go to college, you go to university. When you finish uni, you get a job. Most of that's true, but it's not true because I've been through that, and it's like sometimes when you get to the end of it, you can get a bit disheartened, and then obviously you get into that frame of mind like, so what's next?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like, all right, cool. If you're not gonna give me an opportunity, I'll create my own opportunity. And I feel like I'm glad that my life journey has happened the way it's happened because now when I am trying to do what I'm trying to do and motivate and inspire other people, I've got a lot of life experiences in many different areas, as you said, from business to creativity to relationships to fatherhood, loads of things where I am now knowledgeable of my own personal experience. You know what I mean? Because I also believe that in life, you can't, not that you can't give advice if on something if you haven't been through it, but you can give better advice if you've been through the situation yourself. 'Cause then you can know what you've done wrong or what you could have done better and what, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it as like sometimes I hope that our struggles, our disabilities and stuff, like if we can channel them for good, we can prevent other people, like our struggles will have purpose through helping other people. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
it'll be worth it.
100%.
In terms of songwriting and collaboration, can you walk us through a typical songwriting process for you and how you translate personal experience into your lyrics?
Okay, so okay then. So when it comes to songwriting, first of all, songwriting is different to rapping. Rapping is different to songwriting. So what I've come to realize is with songwriting, especially for example, like My Disability, Can't Stop Disability, and another record that's unreleased, Afflicted. I think you've heard that. I think you like that
Mhm.
record.
Yeah.
Um, like when I was writing Afflicted, mentally, I had to take myself back to those times that I was talking about mentally
Mhm.
in my head to get the emotion out. So and this is something that I've learned to do over the course of the past few years. It wasn't always I wasn't always able to evoke the emotion out of my lyrics. And a part of that is because during that process, I wasn't being vulnerable.
Mhm.
So, and it was not that I didn't want to be, I just didn't have the confidence to be vulnerable in my music. So now I try to be as vulnerable as I can, and I try to evoke and connect the empathy with my lyrics. So by doing that, I try to, attach my lyrics to real life situations, so someone can listen to it, and be like, oh, maybe if they haven't been through that exact same thing, they can be like, oh, I went through something similar, and that will take them back to a time where a similar time of similar experience in their life, basically.
We're going to listen to a snippet of Ake's song, My Disability Can't Stop Disability. Can you explain a little bit about the song and what they're about to hear?
So, My Disability Can't Stop Disability is a piece of art that basically empowers, motivates, and inspires disabled creatives in not making their disability stop the ability of oneself. You know what I mean? Because we all real life superheroes, and we all have something rare and special to offer our society.
Yeah. Real pain. True stories. My disability can't stop disability. This is my story. My disability can't stop disability. Say it louder if you're feeling me. My disability can't stop disability. It's a true story. My disability can't stop disability. This is aches and pains. Can you feel my reality? My disability can't stop disability. I know my soul's blessed and I know the Lord's still in me. When I was a young buck, nobody weren't feeling me. My body weren't feeling me. That shit started killing me. I knew in my heart I kept it real. I kept it so chilly. Had to work on myself. Dog, I had to get busy. Got my head down. Fully focused like the wife Lizzie. Now I got my city on my back. Don't wanna fly with me. Went uni 2 times. Had a youth 2 times. Do it for my seed. I gotta graduate through life. I cut through daily. And I never ever move hype. Mad love for my brothers. And together we'll soon fly. I didn't choose music. Music chose me. I love it. No hurdle can stand in my way because I broke it. So many times I thought to give up and say fuck it. But this is my race. It's only right that I run it. My disability can't stop disability. This is my story. My disability can't stop disability.
That was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Love the song and can't wait to hear the rest of the album. How has your community responded to your music? Because I don't think disabilities are like a huge subject that are spoken about through rap. Like how has the response been?
Well, the response is, well, people in the UK, many of my peers have said to me, yo, Akes, you're like the flyest disabled rapper that we know, man. The disabled person that we know, man. Like, the way you wear it you know, is dope. And I'm like, I'll take that as a compliment. And obviously, it's like, yeah, it's like, again, I don't want to be, for me, the whole thing is, I'm not a disabled rapper. I'm a rapper with a disability. Like, my disability doesn't define me. It defines me, but it doesn't prevent me from reaching my dreams and achieving my dreams. So it's like, it's kind of like it's people embrace it because they have no choice but to embrace it because outside of music in everyday life, normal people who are able-bodied, I haven't got a disability. A lot of them don't work as hard as me. A lot of them haven't achieved as much as me, and you've got no excuse. I've
Mhm.
got an excuse that I could have let slow my roll and let life get on top of me like a ton of bricks. I haven't chose to do that. So I feel like the community respect what I'm doing and they embrace it. It's just now time for the masses to understand it. And obviously, look, we're doing a podcast from the UK to the USA. So baby steps, you know what I mean? And obviously, when the time's right and when it's meant to happen, everything's gonna fall into place how it needs to be. You know what I mean? But yeah, so far, everyone's embracing it. People love it, and it's something fresh. It's no one's doing it, so it's like I had to tap into my authentic self to be able to do what I'm doing today because no one else can't speak about certain things because they haven't been through it. And cerebral palsy is only one thing. As you know yourself, you can have one disability, and other things like depression, anxiety, stress, this all that come from that. So then it's like, how do you deal with that without the support of, for example, family or this? Then when you're dealing with that, you got to deal with kids. You still got to put a brave face on it. Same as normal people that are normal body, able-bodied. When life gets on top of them, when work gets on top of them, and they've got to have a brave face on for the kids and for the family at home. It's the same with us and me, but obviously you got that extra thing that you have to be, you have to acknowledge, and yeah, that's it really.
Yeah, I think you're a real life superhero. I can't imagine parenting and being an artist and entrepreneur and as a disabled person like with kids. That's crazy. I don't know how you do it. Any disabled person that has kids like utterly amazes me because I'm my own child. I can barely manage myself.
Yeah,
But as a father, how do you balance the demands of parenting with your music career and your advocacy work?
well, I was doing all. Now, you know what? I'll be honest. You know what? If something he's doing, I'm a person where if something he's doing and he's doing, obviously, I've got three kids. So obviously, my oldest is 10, coming 11. My middle one's like 8, and my youngest is 2. But obviously, um, yeah, it's like it's interesting because I find myself doing a lot of things that like my mum would do when I was younger, or you would see your friends' parents doing. It's like being a parent is a full-time job. You know what I mean? Because as a man, obviously, as I said, I got 2 sons and 1 daughter. So in my head, it's like when I'm working and stuff, it's like, yeah, this has to work. This can't fail because obviously I've got people who are depending on me. I'm depending on me, and I can't depend on the people who I got no one to depend on, and I can't let down the people down who are depending on me. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's a bittersweet situation, Bree, because it's my driving factor and it's what drives my force to be successful, and it gives me a sense of fulfillment. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
obviously, it before I had kids, I was very anxious of having kids because I just thought I don't want to have kids for them to grow up the same as me. But obviously, as you know, CP is not hereditary, so I'm just grateful to see my kids, be grow and enjoy life and be able to play sports, do this, do that, do that. It's a blessing, and obviously, I've just got to be the best, try and be the best version of myself that I can be for them, more so than myself, because I've already done everything I wanted to do as a kid, so I'm grateful.
Mm, that's awesome. Do they participate in like creative like activities with you or music and do
Yeah,
they
yeah,
like your music, all
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah, yeah. My kids, you know what it is? You see, my kids, yeah, especially my oldest, yeah, and my daughter. They're my biggest fans, man. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to music, and they embrace everything. And obviously, even as they're getting older now, they obviously I speak to them about my condition and stuff, and they are inspired because they're like, "Whoa, Dad, you always like we never see you like we never see you moan and complain. Sometimes we forget that you are disabled. Sometimes I forget because I'm just conditioned into you got to keep going. You can't let this hold you back. You know what I mean? But again, like my kids are my biggest fans, man. They're my biggest supporters. So at the end of the day, it's all for them. You know what I mean? Like like obviously my dad died when I was 11 months old, so I grew up without having a dad. So I didn't know what it's like to grow up with a dad. But now I've got my kids, I know the importance. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird though, because it's weird. It's a weird feeling, a weird understanding. But I know the importance of me being a dad to my children. You know what I'm saying? Even in the worst of times, the hard times. But the show must go on, man.
Yeah. Does it help you almost reparent yourself in a way, dealing with your kids when you didn't have a father, like having to figure out how to navigate things you didn't have?
Yeah. But sometimes I question. Sometimes I question not myself, but I question like there's no blueprint, there's no reference, so it's like I can't say that. Oh, like okay, did I handle this situation right? Am I handling this situation right, or not? So it's just like a lot of the time I wing it, but hope for the best.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like I'm doing a good job. My kids love me, they respect me, they're good kids, so they're a blessing, man. And I try to do the best by my kids and my family, and like I said, I'll just try to make the best out of a bad situation in any event. Life's not planned out. There's no manual to life. You just gotta live the best you can and treat people how you want to be treated and be positive. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Speaking of like creativity and stuff, back to that a little bit. Have you've collaborated with other artists? I've heard a few of your songs with other artists and
Yeah.
producers. How do those collaborations impact your music, and how do they come about? Like, is it an idea that you want to work with these other people, so then you write stuff together, or how does that go?
So basically, say for example, if I come across a producer and I like the sound of beats that they make, I'll reach out to them, or they'll reach out to me. Same with an artist. If I'm in the studio and I'm working on a particular recording or something like that, or I have a particular sound in mind with someone in mind, then I'll create a template and then contact them, send it them, and hopefully, if they're feeling it, we make greatness happen. And that's how it's always kind of been. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, the good thing with that is obviously they tap into your network, you tap into their network, and you just create greatness. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Two minds are always better than one, and just collaborating with other artists is always so fun. Do you have any future projects or upcoming collaborations that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, so I'm working on it's been in the works for a bit, but I'm working on a project, a body of work called This Ability, which is again a body of work which speaks about all the adversities in my life, my disability, all the things I've had to overcome, and basically just my story from start to finish. That's in the works. Obviously, my disability, Can't Stop Disability, is one of the main singles off the project. So I'm excited for that because it will give people, it'll give people and my fans a deeper understanding of what I've actually had to go through. Because it's easy for me to sit here and say, or sit on any platform like the podcast I done a few weeks ago and tell my story, but you know, when you're listening to it through music, you can actually feel like you have a connection with it, and then you can actually feel, okay, there, this is real. This is not just a make believe story. This is actually what you went through that, or you went through this. And again, like I've had friends that I've known for 10 plus years, and they've said when I've listened to certain tracks off the project, they're like, I've known you for 10 years. I didn't know that. I didn't know this. I didn't know that. So there's certain intricate details that I've only been able to express through the music. So
Mhm.
I'm excited for that project to come out because it will give another level, another layer, a deeper layer of substance to me as an artist, to my music, to my life, to my story, and hopefully someone in the world will be able to be inspired by it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Is your song going to be on there that you sent me but hasn't been released? I don't know what the name of that.
Afflicted.
That is Afflicted.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Is that
afflicted.
going to
Yeah,
be on there?
yeah, of course.
Okay, good.
See,
I'm so
basically, with afflicted, yeah. So afflicted and my disability, Can't Stop Disability, are basically the same type of song. The
excited.
only difference is with my disability, Can't Stop Disability, that's more like an anthem. So you could, any disabled person or anyone going through any type of adversity could sing that, and that's relatable to the masses. Whereas Afflicted is my personal story. You know what I mean? And what's so crazy about Afflicted is that when I read that record, I just came out of a label meeting, and we had a conversation, played some music, and one of the guys at the label was like, "Yeah, your story's dope, your music's dope as well, but there's no there's no song about your story, bro. Like I get it, aches, and yeah, but there's no." So I just went straight. I left the meeting and went straight to the studio, and yeah, within like 3-4 hours, Afflicted was written. And obviously with that, I had to, like I said, I had to go mentally. I had to go back from when I was in the womb, and obviously stories that I've been told by my mum when I was growing up and stuff. I had to go back through when I was in the womb, from when I went to kindergarten school, as you lot would call it, but we call it junior school, high school. For when I graduated, my music journey to when I had kids. I take you on an actual roller coaster from
Mm.
start to finish of my life. So that was a monumental moment and a good piece of work that's been created.
Yeah, that song is brilliant, and I can't wait to hear it on Spotify and all the
You've already
platforms.
got it.
I know, but I can't wait till other people can listen to it too.
Yeah.
Like I do listen to it, and I actually showed my friend on a walk the other day. I was like, "No, you have to listen to my friend. Like he's really good." And I when I listened to it, I was just, like obviously disability and like adversity brings people together, but I never would have expected that I would meet someone in the UK, who raps, that I would listen to your song and I could see my story in your story, and just like being able to hear about disability through that medium was totally unique to me. And you just did a great job, and I can't wait till that's like out into the world for everyone to listen to.
Thank you.
But a few more questions. What advice would you offer a young disabled individual looking to get into the music industry or creative industry?
The one piece of advice I would offer to uh anybody would be just dream big. The bigger the dream, the scarier the journey, but just always dream big, you know what I mean? And even on the worst days, on the days when you feel like you can't be bothered, show up. Just show up, you know what I mean? And doesn't matter what the world tells you, doesn't matter what your mom, your friend, your brother, your cousin tells you. If you believe it, and when you go to sleep at night and you close your eyes, you can see it. The universe is a great thing and a beautiful place, and it will provide you with all the ingredients that you need to make your dreams and your reality come true. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Is that part of your, I was going to ask what your like personal mantra is, but is that the like philosophy
Yeah,
that
that's
kind
me.
of guides you?
Just
Yeah.
dream big, man. I just dream big. Like it's crazy, yeah. Because everything that I said when I was growing up as a kid that I wanted to achieve in life, I've been able to do. So that's my mantra is to always dream big, man. Because dream you can turn your dreams into reality. You know what I mean? As long as you believe in yourself and you work hard. It's not all about just having belief. You have to be able to back up the belief with the working hard and the hard work. And then once you do that, you'll just find the universe will things will happen, and you may not understand why things are happening at the time of them happening, but when you look back and you reflect, that's why reflection is key. You'll be able to piece together the puzzle. You're like, oh, that happened and that led me to here. So that's why, yeah.
Awesome. How can listeners support your music advocacy and broader mission of inclusivity in the arts?
Okay, so how people can support me as an artist and my inclusivity and advocacy is they can follow me on social media. My social media is Akes UDK. That's AKES UDK. That's my personal social media. That's across all social medias. And obviously, as I said, I've set up a community interest company, um, which supports and empowers disabled creatives, and which also advocates for disabled creatives. And we're on Instagram. We just launched that. Our Instagram handle is ThisAbilityCIC. So yeah, you can follow us on there and connect, and we'll see what great stuff we can do.
Perfect. And when do you think this ability, that project is going to come out?
Hopefully, hopefully end of the year. I'm not good. You know what it is with that project. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So because that's my story, you only get one chance to tell your story. So I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So I'm trying to make sure all the trimmings and everything are in place before I action and press go on it, because I don't want it to not do what it needs to do. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming very soon. But yeah, we're working. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I had a great time hosting today. If you're looking to find our work, you know where to find Akes on Instagram and online. And you can follow me at Briana Raucci on Instagram or brianaraucci.com. Thank you for listening to the Able Voices podcast, and I'll see you next week.
Able Voices is a production of the Berklee Institute for Accessible Arts Education, led by me, Dr. Rhoda Bernard, the founding managing director. It is produced by Daniel Martinez del Campo. The intro music is by Kai Levin, and our closing song is by Sebastian Batista. Kai and Sebastian are students in the arts education programs at the Berklee Institute for Accessible Arts Education. If you would like to learn more about our work, find us online at berklee.edu/BIAAE or email us at BIAAE@berklee, that's LEE.edu.